right, Lauren, I see that we're live.
Yes, sir. You're good to go.
All right, I would like to call this health and welfare meeting to order.
Yeah, this is Carl Bolden. I'd like to call Building and Grounds to order, please.
At this time, I would entertain a motion. Well, I know everyone on our committee has received the minutes from the previous month's meetings. If there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written and not read the minutes.
I'll make that motion
A motion by
to discuss the reading of the minutes.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Evans. All in favor, say aye. Or well, we'll have to do a roll call vote. Vince, we're on Zoom here. I know we can see each other, but we're gonna have to go through it. So
could we do it by asking anyone who's opposed to speak up, or do you have to?
I think that would be fine. As far as I know, everybody said aye. So is there any opposed? All right, motion carries not to read the minutes and accept them as written. Carl, would you like to do the same?
Yeah, our last meeting, I forget exactly the date on it, but would anybody like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as written in our last meeting?
Make the motion. Robert Hennessy, make the motion.
Yes, sir. All in favor, say aye.
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 About Mr. Taylor? Okay. Motion passes. 4-0.
All right, with your permission.
Mr. Chairman, if I could say something here at the very beginning.
Yes, Mr. Jacobs.
You might want to make sure that there's a roll call vote to make sure that everybody's on record, because not everybody will know that's watching who is present. And so I think each county commissioner needs to identify themselves, because on YouTube, they may not be sure who's actually present and which committee they're serving on,
Okay, we'll start off with the Health and Welfare Committee. Blaine Wiltshire, I'm present.
You might want to make sure that there's a roll call vote.
Lori Judkins, Health and Welfare, present.
David Dunlap, Health and Welfare, present.
Deborah Evans, Health and Welfare, present.
Joseph Stotts, Health and Welfare, present.
We'll start off with the Health and Welfare Committee. Blaine Wiltshire, I'm present.
You might want to make sure that there's a roll call vote. Need to be doing it for Building and Grounds as well.
Okay. Building and Grounds,
Present.
Building and Grounds, who is present with Building and Grounds?
Joseph Stotts,
Old Taylor?
present.
Here.
Somebody's watching YouTube at the same time.
Yep, somebody's watching YouTube, so they need to turn that off if we're getting
Building
feedback.
and Grounds, yeah, that's all I can hear. Building and Grounds, who is present with Building and Grounds?
Joseph Stotts,
Old Taylor?
Here. There's still feedback.
Somebody's watching YouTube at the same time.
Yeah, somebody's watching YouTube, so they need to turn that off if we're getting
Building
feedback.
and Grounds, yeah, that's all I can hear.
Robert Hennessy, Buildings and Grounds, present.
Carl Bolden, Chairman, Building and Grounds, present.
Cole Taylor, Building and Grounds, present.
All right, so that's all of Building and Grounds, and Josh, I believe you're you're here with us?
Mr. Chairman, if I could say something before we actually get into the meat of the business.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to kind of set the record straight about a recent article that appeared in the Southern Standard. It basically in no way represents the situation that occurred at Animal Control. I've stated multiple times, at no time have I ever had a conversation with Mr. Harvey or been in his presence and talked about any plans or permits. I was not at the shelter when this so-called event took place, and that has been discussed openly. Neither was the Animal Control Director, Bradley, nor our maintenance supervisor, Greg Bowden, contacted about any input or saw any plans or had any conversation with Mr. Harvey prior to that article being in the paper. Those of us that have invested in improvements over the last year or so at Animal Control have not been included in recent discussions about plans or permits or site development. The outcome really of the last Health and Welfare Committee meeting is really not explain exactly what the next process was going to be, except I think Mr. Harvey was supposed to bring back plans and permits will be had and things will be approved. We've had a lot of internal improvements that still need to really be done out there at our shelter. I think the email that Director Bradley sent out today basically mirrors that. We've been working very hard towards certification and getting Ashley and Mrs. Bradley basically licensed and certified to be animal control officers. They've been working very hard to correct several years of neglect out there. And I want to give a shout out to all those volunteers who basically rolled up their sleeves and basically got to work over the last year or so to bring the progress that I think we've all have seen. And so a shout out also to the commissioners who have supported animal control over the last year when these changes and these improvements have been made. But just to reiterate once again, I did not have any conversation with Mr. Harvey, and the so-called event that was described in the paper did not take place. An hourly employee called me about people trespassing there on the property and unloading equipment. And I just quickly told her no plans and no permits and no work. No one knew they were coming. No one knew that they were showing up on the property, and no permits had been had. So I do appreciate the generous offer that Mr. Harvey and Superior Walls has made. I did write Mr. Harvey a nice note and thank you for the offer and ask him to call my office, and I've still not spoken to him. And so neither do Sherry Bradley or myself or Greg Bowden think with all the internal improvements that still need to be done at the shelter, that adding an addition, there's not a line item to cover the expense of the site development or laying of concrete, or the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and a new roofing structure, that would probably be a good idea. So I just wanted to set the record straight that those events did not take place. And once again, never have I had a conversation with Mr. Harvey about anything that has been described or discussed over the last week or so.
Thank you, Executive Haley, and we'll get back into that as we get into the animal control part of the meeting. First, I would like to ask Josh Roberts to cover his report.
County, Blaine, do we need to approve the agenda?
We can. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, and it's been attached to everyone's email.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Judkins,
Second.
second from Commissioner Stotts. Let's do a voice vote this way. Blaine Wiltshire, yes.
Deborah Evans, yes.
Mary Judkins, yes.
David Dunlap, yes.
Joseph Stotts, yes.
Motion passes. All right. Next, we'll go to the Sanitation Department report. Mr. Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The monthly report for April, loads hauled to Waste Away was 0. Loads hauled to Southern Central was $779.79. Tipping fees was $35,363.48. Number of loads, 97. Newsprint, we hauled 0 tons this last month. Cardboard, we had 19.91 tons. Money received, $0. Number of loads, 4. Metal to Southern Central, we hauled 35.57. Money received, $2,134.20. Number of loads, 18. Aluminum cans, we hauled 0.20 tons. Money received, $112. Number of loads, 1. Batteries collected, we had 6 used batteries at $45. Collection site for used tires, you'll see that we dropped due to the COVID-19. We're not taking tires right now. Our trustees are on lockdown at the jail. So passenger tires, we had 162, truck tires, 4. Used oil, we had 2 tons at 500 gallons. Electronics, we had 1 ton. Plastic, we had 4 tons. Recycled and money coming back to the county, $2,291.20. Recycle for the month of April, 10%. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept his report.
I have a motion to accept Josh's report.
Second,
Second by Commissioner Evans. Blaine Wiltshire, yes.
Deborah Evans, yes.
Lori Judkins, yes.
David Dunlap, yes.
Joseph Stotts, yes.
Motion passes. Josh, have you got anything to say? I know you have been working on your budget.
Yes, sir. I do have a copy of my budget in front of me, and I'd sent each one of you a copy of the budget. If y'all would like me to go over that with y'all, I can. Whatever you want me to do, Blaine.
Well, I think for expediency's sake, since we all have a copy of it, if you want to just basically tell us the overall of it, what you've got, what you had discussed with me earlier.
Okay. All right, Blaine. Okay, if you'll go to the very last page to the bottom, that'll show all of my changes this year in the budget that I've proposed. And I will start off with truck drivers. We will have an increase of $3,640. That's due to OT and holiday work. Clerical personnel, we've got a $7,000 increase. She'll be going from $23,000 to $30,000. And that is due to additional requirements from the administration office. You'll see a $500 increase in communications. That is due to Verizon Wireless costs going up. Maintenance, we've got a $2,000 increase. That is because we exceeded the line item this year. We're running really close. Next year, we might not run that close. I mean, that's just something hard to say. You know, I mean, we might go next year and not have breakdowns like we did this year. I hope that's the case. But we're running fine this year. We're getting close to exceeding that line item. So I'd like to move 2,000 into that line item to keep us from doing that next year. Tires and tubes, that's the same thing. I'd like to move 3,000 into that this year. And I will say for the note, last year during budget and finance, Tommy Savage had made a motion to move the 2,000 into maintenance and move the 3,000 into tires and tubes. And that got left out of the budget. I don't know how it got left out, but it did. But I'm asking to put that back in this budget this year. Okay, you'll see a big increase in solid waste equipment. That increase is $140,000. That's meaning, okay, the sanitation department has got its own fund, sanitation fund. We've got around $1 million in sanitation fund. The state requires us to keep around $400,000 in that fund. So we've got around $600,000 sitting there for emergencies and for equipment when needed. So I'm asking this year to pull $140,000 out of sanitation fund to spend on purchasing building sites that are needed, compactors and roll-off bins. So that does not mean we're going to need a tax increase for sanitation fund. I'm asking to pull that from the sanitation fund, which we've got the money to do so. We are expected to turn in $250,000 at the end of this year. So that $140,000 can come out of that as well and not have to go back into sanitation fund, just like we done last year with the new roll-off truck. We just brung that money out of the sanitation fund. And then we've got one more line item, utilities. I would like to move $1,000 in utilities. We've almost exceeded that line item. Our utility bill has went up. And that's all the changes I've got. I just want y'all all to understand the increases is going to be coming out of sanitation fund balance. We can absorb every increase out of that fund balance. If you've got any questions, I would be glad to answer them at this time. But I've sat down with the financial director. I've went over this with him, and that's where I've got my information. And I just hope everybody understands. I know when somebody sees a $140,000 increase, you know, it makes you go to doing your research, and that's a good thing. But that will be coming out of the sanitation fund. We've got the money. We've got $1 million in sanitation fund, and we need that equipment. And if anybody's got any questions, I'd be proud to answer them at this time.
No questions for Josh. Josh, we appreciate everything you do. And I forgot to mention that we looked at those buildings last week. There's some buildings that you're going to be replacing also that have some damage on them. And I didn't tell the committee about that.
Yes, me and Blaine went early one morning last week, and we went to 2 or 3 sites, didn't we, Blaine? I believe 2. And he's seen it himself. The buildings are in bad shape. Some buildings are 30 years plus old. The shingles is down to the fiber, and they need to be replaced. They're rotted out around the bottoms of the Mennonite buildings, around the door. They've done us a good job, but it's time to replace them. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. All right. Next, I'm going to cover Andrea Fox's part. She's had some issues getting times, but we'll get that
Hey, Blaine, I'm on.
straightened out. Oh, good. All right, go ahead, Andrea.
For the report for April, the health department provided 1,356 visits to 1,254 clients. We also provided 37 vaccines for the month of April. Obviously, we're not doing as much in clinic because we are also providing the COVID testing.
I would entertain a motion to accept Andrea's report.
Make that motion.
Motion
Second.
by Atkins, second by Commissioner Dunlap. Wilfred, yes.
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 If you don't mind, state your name.
Lori Judkins, yes.
Deborah,
Staff, yes.
Deborah Evans, yes.
David,
Joseph Stotts, yes.
all right, David, we're waiting on you. David, have you voted?
I can't vote on that.
I think, as Lauren mentioned earlier, if you're not speaking, if you mute your speaker, it does help with this buffeting that's going on. and you'll notice screens freeze up at times, and that's usually when there's a lot of mics at them. David has left the premises. So we're going to have that vote. That will be a four. David, are
back.
you back?
Sorry.
All right. Can you vote on that to accept the
The health
report of Andrea?
department,
Yes
yes.
or no?
Yes.
All right. So we have that motion passes 5-0 to accept the report. And is Sherry on? Free to go unless you just want to hang around. I don't think Sherry is with us, but you should have received her monthly report emails that was sent out, and I would entertain a motion to accept that.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Judkins,
Second,
second by Commissioner Evans. Blaine Wiltshire, yes.
David Dunlap, yes.
Deborah Evans, yes.
Lori Judkins, yes.
Joseph Stotts, yes.
Motion passes 5-0. In discussion on that, one note is you probably noticed our population is staying under 30 right now, which is a good problem to have. I've actually got stuff that I'm going to try to pull up here and do a screen share as we get into the building part of it and discussion, because as Executive Haley said, there's a lot of non-communication, miscommunication, you name it, throughout this. I know when Stacy called me that morning that he was headed over there, I didn't realize he was going either. And I actually told him that we needed to try to see what all needed to happen to do that, which I think his intention was to clear ground. But either way, we weren't ready. And that's what this meeting's for. We're having this joint meeting with building and grounds to try to work through what we need to do to make sure that if he is still willing to donate, that we're willing to accept or to see that we can. So I've got some information here that we can share, and you've all been emailed the plan and the drawing. I know originally he had give us, I think it was a hand-drawn drawing of what he proposed to do, and he said that wasn't literal, but this one is actually more like a blueprint, which shows, I believe it's a 28 by 24 with actually a 33 on one side if you count that little additional room in the back. Has everyone had a chance to see that in their email?
Mr. Wiltshire, Robert Hennessy,
Yes, go ahead, Rob.
if I may, I don't see that in my email from the county. What topic would that be under as far as your letterhead for that?
You have it.
I'm not able to pull up my email right now, Robert, while I'm on this. I did copy, I thought I copied all committee members on it, and I may not have put you on there. I'm not sure. I thought I copied everybody on building and grounds on that, but I can't remember what the title of it was.
Okay, but that was directed through the government website, correct?
Yes, to the county email.
Right. Okay. I'll research it again and see if I can't find it. Thank you.
I hadn't seen it either, Robert.
Not seen it either. I've not seen it either.
It didn't come from my office email, so I'm not sure how it was sent out.
I do want to
Okay.
say, I think Sherry Bradley is with us. She's on the phone.
Okay, good. Good.
Sherry, are you here?
I think so.
Yes, Sherry's here.
We're just now, we've already accepted your monthly report, and we're actually just talking about the the expansion and, just discussing it at this point. And if you feel like, interjecting right now and giving us your thoughts on it, we would welcome them.
Hey, Blaine. Hey, Blaine.
Yes, Carl.
This is Carl. I want to thank
Yes.
you and the committee. I want to thank you and your committee for getting all this work done, because that's a great gift to this county. And if there's anything we can do to continue this and let him still do what he was going to do, I think we need to do it, because that is a great big gift and a lot of money. And it's wonderful that he done that, and I sure thank him for it. And I just hope that we can renew all of this and get it back on track.
Well, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're just trying to talk through it and make sure everybody's on the same page and see what comes of it. Sherry, would you like to interject anything on this?
I sent out the email to you folks. Our issue is we have too many problems in that building. I don't want to waste the money putting a building up if we can't use it. What I'm saying is that shelter totally needs to be revamped. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep. We're listening.
Okay. That's my problem. Is I would love to see the building put up, but we need the funds other places. Right now, we only have about $9,000 left from that donation. That's not going to cover all the stuff that we need to put in the new building. And I think I would love to see the building put somewhere else. If we could still use that property we have and flatten it all out and build a whole new shelter up at the top where they have prefabricated kennels and so forth, so you wouldn't have to do a lot. I just don't want to waste the money on a moot point.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Sherry, would you mind, if you would, during the last, of course, it's been a while since we've been able to meet in person.
Correct.
During those last few meetings where we did meet in person and we did discuss the idea, and we passed it in the Health and Welfare Committee on moving forward with the plan. I don't recall, and please feel free to remind me if you would. I don't recall at that time you expressing any what would you say, dissatisfaction with that idea or concept of us pursuing that at that time. So I was wanting to kind of have a double question. I was wanting to ask you what had changed, how you feel like you had changed your mind on that. And then also too, as a second part of a question, also too, how and why do you feel personally as a director of that center, when you say that you feel like we need a new building? Could you explain in detail on why specifically?
Part of the stuff is falling apart. The walls need to be taken up where the kennels are. Where they put up the walls, the Superior walls, they were all styrofoam. So the dogs have eaten that. We would need more a streamlined area. But we're going to waste money putting air and heat in there. Our electrical bills went up because we have to use space heaters, which is also not safe in that building. But I love and am grateful that he offered the building, and I would love a building. I'm just saying maybe we could put it somewhere other than where it is so we could expand where people could see it. When people see something as a shelter, they're more apt to stop in and give you donations. And donations help a great deal. It keeps your tax dollars down, because I know we're on the bottom end of the budget. So we get what's left over, which that's a whole nother ideal. And that's something else in the budget. So that's my thought, is because we don't have the space either. And we have people complaining and we can't take in as many animals as they want to bring us. I know that prior to me, there was a lot of animals in there, which is not up to code. You can't have 38 dogs with 15 kennels without more expensive vet bills. And you can't bring X amount of cats into an area where you have 122 cats where you should only have maybe 30 cats. That also increases your vet bill because the cats stay sick. And then if you want to euthanize, and that costs a good sum of money also. And we're not certified.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. It's hard, there's a lag on some of these videos. It's hard to know when someone's actually paused or not, but I was trying to catch you paused in your conversation. I was just going to ask, and the reason why I asked that question, one of the main reasons is because at least the last 3 times I had been down there, I just noticed overall phenomenal improvement with just the entrance to the facility, the odor issues that, people had spoke about before, and just the overall cleanliness of the facility. It was just, I could tell there'd been lots of at least cosmetic improvements made. And of course, with the pet population down, and I've heard good things out of people and the community about the facility. So again, that was just kind of the rationale and why I was asking you about why you felt like the building needed to be moved, and et cetera. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask a question, or can I speak? So I seem to remember in those meetings when, I can't think of their names offhand, but the other couple who, she had been the acting, Linda Miatov, and Linda and John Miatov.
Yeah.
When they were still acting director, or she was, and Sherry was there, I do remember them saying they would rather just have a new building, that there were so many issues with the drainage and the water and the euthanasia drugs. There were a lot of issues that needed to be addressed that would be better to just have a new building. And to that point, I'd like to say I don't think our committee ever passed a resolution agreeing. We never came to a consensus about Mr. Harvey's offer, which I agree is a very generous offer. I just feel like nothing was ever settled. And I understand in his line of work, when he had free time, he thought, I understand construction. Okay, I'm not busy. I can go do this, the other commitment I have. So that's definitely understandable. However, when you're dealing with government, you can't do that. It has to go through committees and be voted on. And I don't think it's ever been thoroughly discussed like we're doing right now. My third point would be that none of us are there every day, all day, as Director Bradley is. She and her staff, and I called her specifically after she sent that email to get her feedback, because she is the one who's there 24/7. Basically, she's on call. She knows what the needs are. And I think it's presumptuous of us as commissioners, committee members, to, number one, question her like she's on trial, and secondly, to ignore what she says she needs. That's all I wanted to say.
I hope
No,
she like that she's on trial. Obviously, she's not. We're just asking her questions. But that would be the same thing as saying when somebody votes against what a director recommends, that they're against them. But we all have reasons why we vote one way or the other. Go ahead, Joseph.
I was just going back to my original question for for Sherry on what exactly, if she could list, just one or two things that had changed her opinion over the course of the last few months. And I know she did state one of those, which was, I think, Sherry, you correct me if I'm wrong, you said presentation. Was that one of them?
I'm sorry, the what?
Presentation of the facility. Was that one of the reasons you felt like that the building needed to be moved?
Basically for people to actually see it. Where if you drive by a place and you just know it's down there somewhere, you tend to forget about it. If something's forefront, you have more people that like animals and are more apt to stop in and donate or adopt an animal than trying to find shelter where it is. Because I know there's been several people, I'm not from here originally, but that have lived here their whole lives and had no clue that the shelter was where it is.
And how are
that's
you?
my thought
How are you
process.
on donations right now? Without, of course, we don't have to, look at the budget line item per se. Just overall, in your opinion, you are the director, as Deborah stated. So.
And they have with Flames project, of the Group 1 program, that has given us a good amount of stuff. I think our donations are up from last year. This month was a little lower than normal, but we still were able to take a $300 donation.
Okay, thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
I hope it
I've
works,
got,
but
I've got a question, Blaine.
okay, go ahead, David.
Sherry, are you saying that you'd rather not have this building down there next to the building? Or are you saying you want the building, but you want it up on top of the hill up there? Or what are you saying about the donation?
What I'm saying is, I think putting a donated building where we exist now would not be fiscally good for the shelter. I think we're going to waste money putting in more drainage in the roofing, which that money could go to either fixing what we have or adding a better facility somewhere else. Even if you wanted to use that property, I don't know that it can be leveled out and filled in to make a big enough area so that you have the ADA accessibility without people sliding down the rocks. With the rainfall, all those rocks are sliding down. So we're shoveling, we're shoveling rocks after every rain. But I think that building, if he's willing to donate it, if we could add that to a different facility that's more accessible, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And I think if he's donating the building and it's out in the open and he has his name on it as being donated, or to his mother, I think he wants to put on there, then people can drive by and say, hey, look, this person, this business has donated this to the county. He should be great to do other things. Maybe we should hire him for other projects. So it's a washing each other's hands, I guess. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
I think I understand, but so you're saying that up on top of the hill would not be a good place for this building?
Well, on top of the hill, you'd have to level it because you have ditches on each side where it drops off. So it would still have to be filled in. And there's a lot of stuff out there that the state has dumped off that hasn't been hauled off yet. So all that area needs to be leveled so you don't end up in a sinkhole.
Sherry, if I could, and Lori, I know you want to speak. I want to interject here that this reminds me of the proposal I had about a year and a half ago about the building that we could have bought with that donation and put up at the top. And at that time, that wasn't something that we wanted to entertain, but who knows, it might could work out. Now, Lori, you have something to add?
Can you hear
You're
me?
muted.
Okay.
Yes.
I was just wondering, if we build a new building and
There you go.
the present site is not, up to par, where would the funding come from for a new building? And where would it be located? These are, and how long would it take to complete?
Can you get me on that computer so I can watch this?
I don't know what kind of, if we have county property that we could use or not. But we do have the prefabricated buildings where a lot of these shelters are using. And we might be able to talk them into either donating as well. The kennels, they have prefabricated kennels too that are attached to a building. So it's an actual office area along with kennels. But I think it's something that we can visit, we can entertain it.
Go ahead, Deborah.
I just would like to say what you were talking about, Blaine. I remember that when you suggested we use that donation for making a separate building, and we liked that idea. But Sherry and Linda and John at that time said they had inside needs that needed to be addressed first. And they used about 10,000 of it for kennels, and they used about 10,000 for the van. So that's why we couldn't proceed with that, using that money at that time. But could we revisit that idea with Superior Walls of putting a separate building like you originally suggested up there? Is that feasible? I don't know.
I mean, anything's possible. That's what we're talking about tonight is just, trying to see what we can agree on. And Robert, I did send that email to you shortly. Well, actually a few minutes ago. It's got a weird title to it. And Executive Haley, it's not got a normal title. It's like a PN something, because I actually just forwarded the email from Stacy, and that's probably why it wasn't recognized.
I have it,
but-
Blaine. I have that
okay.
email, and it was sent to me at 6:52 this morning, and it has everybody's name attached to it.
Right, but I don't think I copied all of Building and Grounds though. So that's my error on that part. So I did forward it to them now.
Okay.
Or at least I couldn't see it on my phone.
Does it start out, like you said, RNP? I don't know if you can see it.
It's a weird title and it's got an attachment. I'm going to go ahead and do a pull up.
I
something.
did get it. I'm sorry, I did.
That's okay. I'm
I
going
didn't.
to pull up something on the screen here if I can
Okay.
and show you. Hopefully we'll be able to do this. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Budget proposal.
That we've already talked about that. And let's see, I'm going to go down here to the expansion, and
Yeah.
basically at this time what Stacy wants to offer, as we've talked about before, is if you look to the left of the building as we're facing it right now, he wants to put an expansion there, and that includes him clearing out and flattening the ground. And he said the building couldn't be attached because of the roof being so low on that side. So it would have to be a separate building with like a breezeway.
I do remember
That's
him saying
what
that.
he's wanting to propose. Now I've got some more, just some data that I've put down here. That would mean we would have more space, and I'm not a builder and I'm not an accountant. I'm going off what Stacy has told me, but for somewhere $10,000 to $30,000 is what our investment would be, because we would have to plumb it, wire it, get all our permits, and put a roof over it. I believe he said he would put the trusses up, but we would have to actually put the roof itself on it. And of course, we would have to address the electrical, water, and other issues during prep. And we would have to keep the facility in place that is consistent with those in our area, because Sherry mentioned earlier about making it more visible. But now I actually did a search today of our local areas, and just for some information, and I know David has toured some of these, and I've looked at some of them also. White County, their animal control is on a highly traveled road. It's off the main road. It's on Gum Springs Road. DeKalb County is off of Moog Road, which is not a main road. Cookville, or Putnam County, is off of Highway 290. Crossville, Cumberland, I visited that one myself. It's off of Highway 127. It's a pretty good ways back to it. Woodbury, they don't actually have one. They have a group that does theirs, which they do a great job, but they're off of Macy Drive, which is off of Highway 70. Coffee County, or Manchester, they're on Freedom Drive, nowhere around any major roads. Tullahoma, they're on Maple Avenue next to their public works, which is not around any major highways. Franklin County, it's off of Highway 130. Ray County, it's off of Ray County Highway. And even Rutherford County Pet Adoption is on Agri Park Drive, which is off of John R. Rice Road, which is the road that you can't see from Interstate 24 on the, depending on which way you're going. So it looks like the trend is kind of where we're at. We're kind of off the beaten path. And I've said this a number of times. My fear is if we put it out in a more visible area, is that when somebody brings a stray cat or dog in and it gets run over or it takes off, and we've had them take off down there, and it bites someone, at which point do we become liable? And even if we're not liable, I don't really want somebody getting bit by a dog or scratched by a cat or run over somebody's pet that they're having to leave with us. So I think there are pros and cons to both options, but I still think that is a great location, and we'll also save the taxpayers a huge amount of money, because if we build a brand new building, and Carl, you may have to help me on this, but if we built a brand new building somewhere else, I would say that we would be looking at 100 to 200,000 low scale.
You won't even much more to start it for $100,000. I'd say it's going to run at least $200,000 to $250,000. The best you can do. If you build it any size, any larger than that one over there, it's going to run about $40 a square foot, probably.
And
more than likely.
One other thing is Superior Walls donated the bulk of this building that we're in now, and I'm sure that there's a little attachment there, sentimental to that company, and that's one of the reasons they're interested in expanding it, because we didn't have an animal control back then, and they were able to help us out. So that would be another.
Well, I was on that committee whenever they donated that part of that building over there, and he told me back then that if we ever needed any building larger, that he would be glad to work with us. He didn't say he would or wouldn't. He said, I'll be glad to work with you any way that I can. And that's been several years ago when they first come to Matt Menville, matter of fact. But anyway, I don't know what it would cost really to build a new building, but it would cost a lot of money. It costs a lot. I don't know where you would put it at. We'd probably have to buy property, because that's I don't really know of much more property that we've got that would be suitable for to put a place like that on. Really.
Blaine, if I could interject for a minute.
Yes.
On that topic point.
Yes.
One of the things that we're not remembering is that there is a new road that is going to be going through that property there behind Pacesetters, and that road will be utilized for the vocational training center, the robotics center, and access to Motlow. That road will go right by our property. It will actually be, I would think, would be part of the property. So keeping that in mind, as far as the visibility factor, I don't know the lay of that property per se, but I think that would be an important thing to take under consideration going further with this. I think that's something that's critical because of that location. We wouldn't have to buy any property, I wouldn't think, because it would be right there off that new 4-lane. Thank you.
Right. Go ahead, Lori.
I just want to state what my opinion is in this matter, because I don't really speak out that much, and just listening to both sides. And I would love for us to have a wonderful facility, and a nice place for people to visit. But I have to think on the side of, we're getting a generous donation. Our timing is not right for a new building right now coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic. It's just not the right time for a new building. And we could, take this donation and use it to better the facility we have and put some money in a sign, especially if we're going to get a new road in that area. And just, think on the other side of the matter and use some common sense here. I think a new building is just way out of the picture right now.
If I could speak, Mr. Chairman, I don't think Sherry's saying a building tomorrow or next week. I think she's saying that the building we've got right now is not code compliant. It's not ADA compliant. The parking is not conducive to having guests there. There's water issues. There's plumbing issues. There's electrical and HVAC issues. And that have not been corrected because there's not money to do all of that at once. And so now Sherry's saying we're adding additional costs onto an expansion, but we don't even know what the extra addition is going to be used for. Is that going to be an office? Is it going to be ADA compliant? The little room that's attached to the back, is that a bathroom? If it is, it's going to require additional plumbing. The plumbing that we've got right now we don't even have an ADA bathroom there. And we've got plumbing issues because of collapsed lines that are there already that we're trying to figure out a plan to correct. And so adding additional sewage from another bathroom, I'm not sure what that other room is supposed to be that's tacked on the back. And it's not very clear or clearly marked. And so I think Sherry's saying in order to get our facility back certified again, which it's not, adding a building is not going to correct ADA. It's not going to correct the issues that she deals with every day. And that's every day. And so I deal with it every day as well, because we have to figure out ways to fix things all the time. And it's been a year that we have been faced with correcting things that have been neglected for so long. And it's not necessarily that Sherry's wanting a brand new spanking building anytime soon. She's just saying, let's correct the things that we've got right now and hold off, because long-term, that facility is not going to meet our needs. It doesn't meet our needs right now. And so it's not going to meet our needs 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And so we do have additional property right there on that site that could be used to plan something and then do a donation type of fundraiser. And I think if people saw the facility as it is right now and how it's been turned around and the progress that we've made and the positivity of people who visit right there now compared to what it was a year or so ago, goes a long way in sales pitching what Sherry and those volunteers and that staff has been amazing over the last year to work with what little they've had, but to make it go a long way. And so we do appreciate all the donations that's been made over the years. But that building was never permitted. It does not meet code. The electrical was never inspected. As far as I know, we have issues that we had to correct just a little over a week ago. And we still got plumbing issues there that Sherry deals with every day. And so I think that's what Sherry is saying, that it would be more cost effective and save taxpayers more if we just corrected some of the things that we did, rather than spending another $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 on an addition that if it's going to be an office, Sherry's got an office that does not really meet the needs of the animals right now. And if it's not handicap accessible or ADA compliant, or the parking issue is not addressed, it's really not going to meet the needs either of that facility. And so, we've got to look at what the needs are at this particular point and start addressing those. And so correcting the operations, getting things organized, that's taken nearly a year in order to stabilize and refresh and kind of rebuild what we were handed. So, and I commend Sherry and her staff. Ashley's been remarkable. Magic's always been remarkable, but also all the volunteers that have been there supporting everything that's been done. And none of that turnaround could have been possible without them.
I have a
I think I had my hand up.
Go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah. Sherry, Executive Haley speaking a lot to the point of the shelter not meeting your needs. Of course, he spoke to some of the maintenance issues, then also it not meeting your needs. What needs, like for example, if you were to be asked by like someone in the community right now, as far as the building's concerned, with the low animal population that you have, as far as it not meeting the needs that you have, what would you tell someone?
Our drainage issues, everything backs up from the sewers. They've run lines through there, and there's rocks that are stuck inside the lines, so we don't know if they're cracked or not. And in order to change anything, they're going to have to dig and break up stuff, which is not feasible. If we have animals in there, we can't reroute the drainage. And how much is that going to cost by rerouting everything? We still have to have somebody come in so they can mark where our lines are, because nobody knows where the lines end up, where do they go, the gas lines, so on and so forth. And if there's a clean out, because there were no permits prior, nobody knows where anything runs to. And then if you were going to dig there, you'd still have to have somebody come in, and we'd have to pull permits to mark everything out. And you'd have to have the screening, because I know you have to have a permit when you're moving trees because you're disturbing the earth. I did look up that. And then plumbing always leaks. They have to reroute all the water. We had to reroute the hot water. And our hoses always break outside. They crack because of the colder weather. But that's our mainstay is we're getting sewer gases. So it makes people ill if they're in there. Nobody wants to smell sewer gas or try to clean out stuff that's sewer gas, not actually dog excrement, but the gas is backing up in the system.
Has there been action taken on part of the county to improve those problems? And if there has, how do you feel about that? I mean, how do you feel like it's going? Do you feel like there's a bit improvements being made in a timely fashion? What's your opinion on that?
We're making improvements. However, the improvements can't be foreseen because we're going to have to dig in order to get to the pipes. So that would take pulling up the kennels and relaying all the piping. So I don't know that there's money to do that.
We've had multiple people come out and look at it. We've also looked at addressing parking as well. So we've had people that do dozer work come and look at trying to do a little bit of dozer work there to the left in order to create a better parking facility. So we've had, of course, ESG look at all the HVAC and everything, but some of the electrical is in question, whether it's going to carry the load. So the old gas unit burned out. And so we've made do until we were a little bit more comfortable about what direction that we were going to do, either with an add-on or repair what we've got. So it has been addressed. Greg's been out there with multiple city people trying to locate lines and clean outs in the sewer. City's been out there several times to address issues. And really basically the thing that's got to be done is probably some of that concrete is going to have to be jackhammered and a new line laid And, you know, but once again, we got to have permits and plans because we don't know exactly where the lines are because there were never permits pulled to begin with.
Right, and the other area on that property is roadkill, dumping in the pits. When people come in and they're smelling that, if we're gonna stay on that property, I don't know if they can find another less viable area, so we don't have to, because I'm gonna work with somebody so that we're not gonna have to dump the animals there anymore. They're not gonna be, even if it's out of my pocket, I'd rather have that than have people smelling that, especially in the summer.
Well, if I could, I need to show, share a little bit more information here. What I want to do tonight is I want to make sure that we, at least the Health and Welfare Committee, do what we need to do to make sure that all of the things that's been brought up tonight, which we've known about these issues for about 1.5 years, that we officially send this to Building and Grounds for them to find out what and if there's a plan to fix these problems, because we can't go any further without fixing them. That's obvious. And with our population as low as it is, and I've been doing this a while, I look back through the data, and we used to float around 100 animals out there every month, and now we're down below 30. I think now would be the time to start digging up some concrete if possible, if that's what we need to do to fix these issues, so that whether we can build on or not, at least Sherry and everybody there doesn't have to worry about these conditions holding them back. I know that there probably wasn't a permit originally back when this was built. I don't know what we can do to retro that or have it re-permitted, but it looks like to me that there's something that could be done to address these issues. So what I would like to do is I would like someone to make a motion that we send all of these concerns that Executive Haley has mentioned and that and Sherry is aware of to Building and Grounds to be looked at, to try to get some kind of time frame to where we can start addressing them, because until then, we're not going to be able to take any donations. And that's not a good place to be, because somebody may be wanting to donate and they're waiting to see if we accept this donation. And if we're not able to accept it, we may lose one. And I would rather address the issues if possible.
I was going to
Yes,
speak
Deborah.
about that too.
Yes.
I was going to suggest that if there is money in the budget, that we address these, to me, they're health concerns in that building, or look at how much that would cost. And of course, thank Mr. Harvey, but ask him if he's willing to wait until another time. Because we're not in a moment where we really can do this, because accepting Mr. Harvey's generous gift is going to cost the county. Did you say 30 to 100,000?
No,
30,000?
10 to 30,000.
10 to 30. Okay.
And that's not an exact figure. I'm not an architect. I don't know. I'm
Right.
saying I figure at least $10 to $30,000 to finish the building.
So, and that of course depends on cost and all that stuff, which are probably being affected by the economic situation the whole world is in. But could we accept his offer at another, like, for the future after we address these other issues first? And is there money to address these other issues?
Well, I think the money that's left over was part of a gift in someone's memory from their estate. And it was, if I'm not wrong, Sherry, it was kind of leaning towards spay and neuter programs, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Right.
I wouldn't feel comfortable asking that myself. but I'm not saying that's not possible. I don't know that that's something that we can ask. Sherry might be able to do that, but
No, I meant, is there funding in the budget, not from the gift?
no, our budget, if you've looked, and I don't know if everybody has received it yet through email, but you will be if you haven't already. Our budget, did go up this year, and we've hired more people, obviously, and we've got our budget. It has to grow when you do that, so we've got to address that as well. And like Lori mentioned earlier, with this pandemic going on, people are not going to be wanting probably anything to cause their taxes to go up because they're already dealing with unemployment and other issues. And so we've got to find a way to sell what we've done, because we went from 2 full-time and 1 part-time to 2 full-time and 3 part-time, and our population is lower than it's ever been. And, we're
So-
open less to the public. And
So my question is, where would that money come from? If we accept Mr. Harvey's donation right now, where would the 10 to 30,000 come from?
well, we would vote to send that to Building and Grounds, and then they would basically look and see if there was any money to do this. And if there wasn't, then there wouldn't be.
So if we instead fix the issues with the building we have, I think I understood someone said it's already not ADA compliant. And we have to have at least a plan, I know, and we should be working toward that goal. If we opted tonight, is this a possibility to ask Building and Grounds if they have money for us to fix the issues that Sherry and Executive Haley have named? We can name all of them and send it to Building and Grounds and then budget, whatever, and get the money to fix what's currently wrong, and tell Mr. Harvey we are not in a financial situation due to the problems at the existing building. We're not in a financial situation to be able to accept his gift, because we would have to put up 10 to, and that's, you and I, neither one are accountants or construction workers when we say 10 to 30,000. It could be a lot more.
Right.
We don't know. And then you're going to have, there's going to be plumbing issues with that building. And it just feels like we already have a mess. Why do we want to add a partial building to the mess we already have? That's how I'm thinking. I'm seeing it.
Yeah, well, and of course, we've had situations where we've needed more money than what we thought at other projects. The courthouse is a good place to start, because of the roof situation there. $70,000 or whatever. I don't know exactly, but so that's why I thought that at least on our part as a committee, we could officially accept it, pass it to Building and Grounds, and then if it stops there, it stops there. But I feel like
if there was no cost to us, I would accept it wholeheartedly. But I know from my own home, when we do projects, we run into unexpected expenses. So in addition to the things we're already knowing that we have to address in the existing building, we are likely to find things that we had not foreseen in adding. I don't think it's a good time to do it. I'm not saying not to accept it. I just don't think it's a good time. Not with the working conditions they're already working in. I'm talking sewage gases and things like that. And I don't know, at one time the euthanasia drugs were running and mixing in with the plumbing lines where the animals, all of their urine was mixing. And that's disease. And I don't know if that's been fixed or just temporarily fixed or what.
I believe it has.
Has it been fixed, Sherry? Permanently fixed?
We fixed some of the drainage to keep it in a tube, but since we're not euthanizing there, we don't have the issue because we don't have the chemicals.
So if you did euthanize there, would it mix or not?
We'd have to fix one part of the room. It should, but
We'll
I
have
would
to have a
have
whole
a
new
plumber.
room. It'll have to be secured and locked with a safe in it and a person certified in order to do the euthanasia.
That shouldn't be
And
a
the,
problem.
and the animal control would have to be certified as well in order to do
Yes,
that.
and you
Is
have to
that-
go through training, and right now, we're having to take animals, diseased animals, but I would like to address the idea of the reduced population is because we have had the additional staff. The animals have been cleaner, taken care of. There's been more transports. The van has helped immensely in transporting animals in a safe way and not depending upon other people to borrow trailers or people to show up. You can't adopt out, you can't rescue out a diseased animal. And so our populations were growing because we could not adopt animals out, or we couldn't transport them without a clean bill of health. And it's very hard to do when you have very large populations. But everybody has worked extremely hard to keep things clean and to keep the diseases down and to scrub the walls and to use the disinfectants that are supposed to be used. But you can't do that with one part-time employee when you've even got 30 or 40 animals. You know, you got to realize animals have to be cleaned and fed every day, multiple times. And they cannot be neglected for 3 or 4 days at a time because a part-time person is sick or the director or whatever has had to go out of town. And so those additional staff people have been a godsend to Sherry and allowed her to do the things operation-wise and marketing as well to get those animals to good homes and to save their lives and to keep them healthy.
Commissioner Stotts?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like Lori, just kind of make one more statement on the issue before, Blaine, before the committee proceeds on whatever type of vote that we're going to take on the issue, which is I've been contacted by a lot of constituents in the community who, a lot of them who have minimal interaction and experience with the shelter, and some of them who have a lot of experience and interaction with the shelter. And the majority of the opinion in the community that I have heard is that they would like to see this particular project flourish. They would like to see us be able to accept Mr. Harvey's donation. They would like to see the animal shelter continue to improve. As many people here tonight has already mentioned, there's been lots of improvements made. It's lots of things. And so, but they'd like to see things continue to improve. I think that personally, touching upon the fact that Mr. Harvey's already donated the building and everything in the past, I think that he has a stake in the project. He's very dedicated in what he's tried to do for the community. And I'm in favor of us pursuing the project. And with that, I don't see any reason why that we can't accept a donation, but then at the same time, still address the concerns that Sherry's brought up and that Deborah's brought up. If we simply want to say we want to accept that donation, and then at the same time go ahead and address the daily needs that are occurring at the center based upon Sherry's recommendation on what her daily needs are and what's the most important. But overall, I would say that I'd like to be able to see the project continue. And from what I've heard in the community, they'd like to be able to see it continue as well. And thank you.
I just have another point to add to that. The community probably is not aware of the situation in the existing building, because even we were not fully aware until tonight. Until I know John and Linda Meatov a year ago, and Sherry all spoke about this, but it kind of got laid by the wayside. And I know John worked to fix some of these issues, but we need them professionally fixed to where they would pass for certification. The community probably is not aware of that because we weren't. And I'm not so sure the community's aware Now, we have no idea how much money it's gonna cost the county to accept the gift. So with that being said, like I said before, I'm up for accepting the gift. But I think it should be contingent, the time frame contingent upon those issues that have already been addressed. I mean, not addressed, those issues that have been brought up need to be addressed. And we have to have more of an idea of how much it's gonna cost the county and whether or not the county has that money before I think we should do it somehow like that, so that we don't want him to go over there and start doing this right now. We
Well,
need these other issues fixed first.
two things, Deborah. One, I don't know about anybody else on the committee, but I've known about these issues since the start of this term, because in one of our very first few meetings, Executive Haley mentioned them to us, that they needed to be addressed. And
So we dropped the ball. We didn't pursue that.
well, it is what it is. They're not addressed, and that's why I think it's critical at this point to not point fingers, but let's pass it to Building and Grounds and let them do their due diligence to address these issues. And if they're not able to address them, then at least we can give Mr. Harvey an answer, because right now we can't. And that would be what I would like to see as a motion: accept the donation and send it to Building and Grounds to address the issues and see whether or not we can proceed.
In good conscience, I cannot do that unless I know there's other, the issues that you say you've known about for a year, unless those issues are addressed first and we know how much it's going to cost the county. Because I owe that to my constituents.
Hey, Blaine,
David?
Blaine,
Yes.
the only
Go ahead,
thing the
go ahead,
Building and
Carl.
Grounds can do, okay, thank you. What the Building and Grounds will have to do is to find the right plumber and electrician or whoever to go over there, and I don't know what will have to be done. I don't know where those pipes are at. I know they were put in the ground back several years ago when we first built that shelter, but we'll just have to get somebody, some plumber and some electrician too, to go over there and address both the issues and bring it back to the Building and Grounds and see what they think can be done to address these issues. And we'll just have to go from there. And,
Are those
Building
jobs that
and
have
Grounds
to
is
be,
concerned.
do they have to be bid out, those jobs? Or can we just call it plumber?
I'm
Do they
sorry.
have to, do those, just the plumbing and electric, do those jobs have to be bid out, or can we just call it plumber and an electrician? Or do we have to get estimates? How does that work?
Blaine, if I could address that question, please. Blaine.
Go ahead,
Hennessy.
Robert.
Deborah, I've had a conversation with Mr. Bowden, the Director of Maintenance, and he's had a conversation with Sherry out there at the Animal Control Center, and he's aware of the situation, and they're trying to do things in-house as much as they possibly can. Anytime it gets beyond what they are capable of doing, then we will entertain an idea of contracting somebody to come out and help resolve these issues. And Mr. Wiltshire, on your note, as you discussed, I think if we could possibly meet with Greg and Sherry and have a very concise list of things that need to be addressed out there immediately, and look at those things and bring those to the Building and Grounds Committee for discussion with Mr. Bowden present, or whoever else the rest of the party could be, then we can address those and move forward. Because all this information is new to me, and I haven't heard anything about this until this evening. And we would certainly be happy to help in any way that we can through communication. And also, Mr. Harvey's contribution to Warren County is admirable. But I think, just like you stated earlier, if we go ahead and explore these other issues and then have an evaluation on that, and then move forward from that point and see where we're at, and certainly accept his donation. But with that being said, with those conditions attached to your motion, I think might be a way that we can move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Blaine, this is Carl.
Yeah. Yes, Carl.
As far as of course, I know that with my wife's sickness, I've been out of the loop for about a year, most of the time. But this is the first time, I'm like Robert, this is the first time that the Building and Grounds has ever known anything about these problems out there. And if there are all these problems is happening, and I'm sure they are, I don't have a problem with believing that. I know they are. We definitely need to address these problems. The problems, it'd take a long time, several months, even if we decided to build a building. If there's the possibility that we could build a building, but these issues with sewer and stuff like that needs to be addressed, even regardless of whether we build a building or whether we don't. And I think the concrete could be busted up and get the right plumber in there, and they could probably fix that problem within a week, 10 days or something like that. Pour that concrete back, let it dry, and maybe, like that. But I think if later down the road sometimes, if there's a new building built, these issues with that building over there needs to be corrected just as soon as they can be.
Right.
It's going to take a few months. It's going to take a few months, regardless.
Right. Go ahead, Lori. Lori, you're muted.
I said, I agree with Carl, and I think we need to address the needs first, but, take Mr. Harvey's offer if he's willing to wait until we can address these needs that are to get us up to code.
Hey, Blaine, this is Philip.
Go ahead, Phil.
I agree with Carl and Robert. So it's what we need to do.
I can make the motion, or if somebody else wants to.
I'll make the motion.
What are you making a motion, Joseph?
That we accept and for Building and Grounds.
We accept the donation, and we send the donation and the needs that need to be looked at as far as the plumbing, electrical, the permits to Building and Grounds for review and addressing. Is that what your motion is?
Yes, sir.
Can
I'll
I
second
make an
that
amendment?
motion.
I have a motion.
Second by David. Would anybody like to speak to that,
I
Deborah?
would. I'd like to make an amendment to it. That the issues, just as Robert, I agree with Robert and Carl, the present issues need to be dealt with first. Before the way, I like the way Carl and Robert said it better. Because it seems like it's said that we're going to accept the donation and address the issues, but I think the issues need to be addressed first.
And that was part of the motion, accept the donation and send to Building and Grounds. And then at that point, that motion includes action that they would then take on the issues that you just mentioned at their discretion.
Right, because if they can't, if for some reason we can't fix the issue.
Well, there's nothing in your motion about those issues being addressed first.
Because that's for them to follow up on.
Is that right, Robert? Do I understand that right?
Hey, Blaine.
Robert?
Yes,
Hey, Blaine, this is Carl again.
Carl.
My honest opinion is if when we accept that donation, my thoughts are on that right now. If we build that other building that's been offered to us, then that sewer is going to have to come out anyway, because it's going to have to be connected. All it's going to have to be connected together
Right.
in that building. it's all of that concrete, some of that concrete is going to have to be busted up regardless. You get in there where the sewer lines is at and put new sewer lines in there, the new lines. So if we put that building down there, the new building that's been donated to us, hopefully it'll be donated to us, then all that stuff's going to have to be done anyway.
Right.
So you're going to, regardless of we start that new building, still going to have to bust up that concrete because all that sewer lines are going to have to be tied together and run down there in that hole where it was originally run several years ago.
I understood that it wasn't going to be tied together, that it was going to be separate. Is that no?
No, but what Carl's saying though is that they'll have to share some of the plumbing lines. So regardless, if you're going to build anything at all there, you'll have to address the plumbing issues to build. Deborah made a motion to amend the motion. Is there a second on that?
I have a suggestion of how to reword it to make it sound
Okay.
where we could all agree on it. A motion to send the needs of the animal shelter to building and grounds to be addressed, to meet the codes and be ADA compliant, and to accept the donation from Superior Walls for future construction.
All right, you put that in a form of a motion to amend the motion.
Second.
All right. So now we're voting on the amended motion, which is, I'm gonna let you state it again, Lori.
Okay. I make a motion that we send the needs of the animal shelter to building and grounds to be addressed, to meet codes and to be ADA compliant, and accept donation from Superior Walls for future construction.
And we have a second, so we're gonna vote.
I'll second that motion. I
Okay,
think Joseph already did.
Yeah, we did, and I'm gonna vote Blaine Wiltshire, yes.
Deborah Evans, yes.
Lori
David Dunlap,
Judkins-
yes.
Lori Judkins, yes.
Joseph, are you voting?
Joseph Stotts, yes.
Okay. The motion passes 5-0. So Carl, this motion, this matter has been passed to your committee. And hopefully, like Robert said, we can get a meeting. We might want to do another joint meeting with both committees, with Sherry and Greg and Jack or whomever, and Executive Haley and anyone else that, is involved in this or wants to find out what we need to do to go forward.
Yes, that's exactly what we need to do. But as chairman of the Building and Grounds, let me make this suggestion.
Okay.
Have Greg Bowden, have Greg and Sherry and Executive Haley get together and see exactly what the needs are over there before it's brought to Building and Grounds, where we'll know exactly what we're discussing, the work that needs to be done.
Right.
And then bring it before us. But we need a complete list of what needs to be done at the center before we even start on it. Because we need to know exactly what needs to be done. And
Exactly.
that is going to be hard to do, my opinion, over the telephones like this. I think
Right.
we need to sit down together as a committee, as a Building and Grounds and as a Health and Welfare, and discuss this thing. And hopefully this epidemic will be over where we can do that pretty quick, because we need to sit down and everybody sit down and go over this thing with both committees, in my opinion.
Very good point. Does anybody else have anything they want to add?
Mr. Chairman,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman,
Cole.
can y'all hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Yes.
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 I like Robert. I like Mr. Bolden's idea. At the end of the day, we want to make sure our animals and Mr. and Mrs. Sherry is working in a safe facility out there. But we also want to make sure that we save the taxpayers of Warren County as much money as possible. And at the end of the day, when you have such a generous donation that we have, by no means, we can fix everything that's wrong with the facility now, get the new donation and put a roof on it and get it done in the right manner and save money instead of building a brand new building. There's no question.
Amen.
Thank you.
So I'm all for getting this donation, but I am also all for getting Miss Sherry Bradley's facility fixed and took care of.
I agree with you, Cole Taylor, 100%.
Yes.
I think at this time, I think that it won't hurt a thing in the world to discuss a new building. But at this time, I think we'd save the taxpayers money if we would repair that building over there and take this donation. If we still can get this donation, I think we'd be better off to take it. And then in the future, won't hurt to look at new property to put a building on. But at this time, I think we need to repair what we've got. The way I see it right now, I can change, but that's the way I see it right now.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
All right.
So I don't know. It may be that we'll have to build a new building. But I know. I'll tell you something that none of you all probably know because you wasn't on the commission at that time. But when we remodeled the administrative building over there, William Biles School, we thought that there for a while, we thought that all the plumbing was going to be fine. And we had to bust concrete out after we was in that building about 2 years, started having sewer problems. We had to go in and bust some concrete out of the basement down there where the cafeteria was and redo all those sewer lines down there. Plus, we had where he come out of the building and runs right up the driveway out to Locust Street. We had to dig all that up and put in new sewer lines up through there because when that building was built as a school, they were like a foot higher out the street than it was back at the building, and we was having trouble all the time. And that was done when that school was built. The sewer line was about a foot or 18 inches higher at the street than it was where it was coming out of the building. And we had sewer problems all the time over there until we addressed that. And it can be fixed. It's going to take a little time to do it.
And the roof was bad too, Carl.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
The roof was also bad.
Well, yeah, whenever I was first person to go in that building over there at William Biles to look at it, and I waded water ankle deep in that old gymnasium because you could look out of that building, you could see the sun shining or the stars shining just several places in that building because the roof was completely gone. It was in terrible shape. It was in terrible shape. And I'll tell you something else. At that time, we had a bond for $2 million. And that administrative building over there from that school was done at that time. Now, I know it's been a long time and things have changed, but the county borrowed $2 million to remodel that school building. And we had enough money left over out of that $2 million after that building was completely remodeled. And to fix that gym down there where UCHRA is at, and to do a lot of paving around that building. So that back then, that was done with $2 million.
Well, that it just pays to be frugal with everybody's money, and that's what we're trying to do. And I appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. And with that, I would entertain a motion for the Health and Welfare Committee meeting to adjourn.
Make that motion.
And I'll also do that same motion with the Building and Grounds. But I want to say this to the Building and Grounds Committee. We need to get together sometime here within the next week or 10 days and start work on our budget. And we need to get with Greg Bowden and hopefully with all this money that we spend at the court, I'm going to spend at the courthouse on air conditioners and the jail and the health department and all that stuff like that. Hopefully, our budget can be lowered some this year, and that's what I'm hoping for. But we'll just have to look and see. But all you people that's on Building and Grounds, we need to get together as soon as we can and start work on our budget. That's all I got
All
to
right.
say.
I have a motion from Commissioner Evans and a second from Commissioner Judkins to adjourn. Joseph, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Carl, definitely, I agree with you. And also too, would like to add, I feel like, effective communication in this process, we've got that. All things we discussed, we'll see them take place and they'll get accomplished. And I feel confident in that. So thank you.
Thank you. I vote blanks to adjourn.
I vote for the building and grounds to adjourn.
I vote yes.
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 Joseph Stotts, yes.
Robert
Cole
Hennessy,
Taylor,
yes.
yes.
Philip Stout, yes.
I believe everybody
Good night, everybody.
adjourn.
Good
Yes,
night.
everybody.
Good
Good
meeting.
night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.